Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download.
Hey there, it is WRAL's NC Capitol team. I am Will Doran.
And I'm Caroline Yaffa.
And we are sitting in the North Carolina House of Representatives, where in probably about 24 hours, we're going to see our first votes on the new state budget. Just dropped really a couple hours before we're recording this. It's 12 or 1,300 pages, so we are still digesting it, still reading through.
A lot of information that we're just all going through right now.
Yes, and we've got a ton of people going through this. If you want to follow all of our coverage, you can go to the NC Capitol section of WRAL.com. So we're going to keep coming at you with more information as we learn more. There's a ton in this thing, but we do know some highlights already.
Yes. I think one thing that we've been talking about a lot and on our coverage are state employee raises and bonuses. So it's what we expected when state leaders, the House Speaker Destin Hall and Senate Leader Phil Berger had their press conference, and we covered that intensely in May. State employees, for the most part, are going to see 3% raises. Teachers are going to see an average of 8% raises, and then public safety, like law enforcement, they're seeing it's between 10.1 and 17.7% raises.
Right, and that includes like state troopers,
yes,
SBI, prison workers, parole and probation. So lots of people will get a lot more than that 3%, but the 3% is just kind of the base rate, and that is really irking the State Employees Association of North Carolina, which lobbies on behalf of these folks. They say, look, we're already a year past this budget. We have no raises at all for this current year. These raises that we're talking about here are going to go into effect starting Wednesday, should this budget become law, which we expect it probably will.
Yeah.
But they say this is a budget that, state leaders are telling us that we have a strong economy, but you're only giving people, this 3% raise after a year of no raises. That's not even keeping up with inflation.
And yeah, they're unhappy about it. I mean, I just interviewed Artis Watkins, and she basically said that they want at least 5% raises across the board for state employees. They are saying that, obviously what you said, that it's not adding up because of the lack of a new budget last year. And so she wants all state employees to have that base of at least 5% and to kind of be the same across the board.
But it's not just the state employee raises in there. There's also, of course, the state health plan, which serves not just the employees, but their families, a lot of retirees. It's like almost 800,000 people get their health care through the state health plan. The legislature is putting billions of dollars into that to keep premiums from going up even further. Last year, they had their first premium hike in years. There's probably going to be another premium hike coming for next year. They haven't voted on that yet, but that's probably coming up in the next couple of weeks. But with this nearly $4 billion injection into it, those premiums are going to be going up a lot less than they would be otherwise. So that's something that State Treasurer Brad Briner is happy about. He sent out a press release about that earlier today. There's also provisions to eliminate hundreds of long-time vacant jobs in the budget. It's no surprise that we have massive amounts of vacancies in state government, and they're looking especially at jobs that have been vacant for like a year or more that they just can't hire anybody for. But the thing is, even though nobody's working those jobs, they still hold the salaries just in case they do hire someone. So we just got all this money that's just sitting around. So there's close to 1,000 jobs, I think, that they're cutting in this budget. And that's allowing them to, one, add some new positions to other agencies that need new people, that are growing, and then also just to take that money and put it elsewhere.
There's also the baseball aspect of that. I mean, there's $1.7 billion, which was the framework that they talked about for the stadium. Baseball is not in the budget, which is something that we've covered and the rest of our NC Capitol team a lot. Baseball, there was going to be a proposal of $500 million that they wanted the people pushing baseball to be in the state budget, but ultimately Senate Leader Phil Berger was pushing for this, but the House said this is not the right time. They said that they don't think that taxpayers would get a return on investment now, and they didn't want to spend the taxpayer dollars right now.
Other people, though, say that it is the right time. I mean, look, the Canes just won the Stanley Cup. The owner of the Canes, Tom Dundon, has expressed interest in bringing MLB in. They literally just paraded the cup around down on the floor down here.
Yeah, it was literally right here, like on the dais, yes. And it was a packed situation. It was crazy.
They feel like the momentum is here for pro sports. I mean, we're one of the fastest growing states in the country. Raleigh and the suburbs are one of the fastest growing parts of this fast growing state. So they feel like, MLB probably maybe wants to be here. But what we're hearing is that MLB won't allow basically a team to go somewhere unless taxpayers help out with the stadium. And so that's really the push is, okay, do we think that this is worth it, for the economy, for the state's reputation, everything, to just dive right in and spend hundreds of millions, maybe $1 billion plus on bringing a baseball team here? Or do we say, hey, look, we're trying to cut taxes, we're trying to deal with other, inflation issues, we've got bigger priorities. And so right now, seems like that it might still be in discussion, but it's not going to be in the budget.
And it's possible that it goes into something maybe later in the year or maybe next year. I mean, I don't think it's off the table. I wouldn't say that at all. MLB wants to expand, and they have their expansion bid in 2029. So, I mean, there's a little bit of time. I think they would need to do something soon, obviously. Yeah. But Senator Berger is a huge baseball fan, and so that's something that he's expressed interest. And again, going back to Will's point, it's like he said that without the help from the state government, he doesn't see how MLB would fit into this.
Let's take a quick break right there, and we'll be right back.
There's also smaller things in the budget. We were talking earlier off camera about there's a lot in there about social media. I mean, that's been a huge concern. That's not really something that you think about like, okay, this is something that should be in the budget. But what people who haven't followed North Carolina politics recently might not realize is the budget isn't just about money. They often stick little policy things into the budget, and a lot of times it's stuff that maybe passed the Senate but not the House or vice versa. And then just as part of the horse trading negotiations, they say, okay, well, we'll agree to this if you agree to this. And that's part of the reason why this whole thing has taken over a year to put together. But what were some of those like social media aspects that you were?
There was some AI policies. There's a whole social media bill in the legislature that's not inside the budget, but there were some AI policies with AI training and courses that colleges and universities are going to maybe implement, and maybe some for K through 12. I think it's just interesting how these new technological changes are, again, working its way into the budget, and you wouldn't even think about it, but sometimes it's providing money for these courses and providing it for teachers, because money doesn't grow on trees. And I mean, it's a $34 billion budget, but there's still money for reserves.
Right. Well, and some other tech problems that they're trying to grapple with, anyone who's tried to buy tickets online recently has been frustrated, and this is really a bipartisan thing. They're trying to crack down on bots buying up tickets for resale, which it can be so infuriating if you're trying to get tickets to something and just they all get snapped up in an instant. And so that's a problem that again has nothing to do with state spending and the state budget, but it has shown up in this document.
Yeah, and the Attorney General, Jeff Jackson's talked about that, cracking down on everybody wanted to go to the Canes game, and on all these different ticket platforms, it was hard to get tickets, it was expensive. So, it just ties into, again, the Canes.
Exactly. But, just an example of, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages here, and, that provision takes up 2 or 3 pages out of many hundreds. So we're still going through this, figuring out everything that is in there, everything that's not in there, like baseball. There's more money for a huge new children's hospital out in Apex that's supposed to eventually employ like 8,000 people. That's going to be a huge driver for the Wake County economy. And we honestly haven't seen the budget do much for the Triangle in recent years, just because that area is dominated by Democrats. Republicans obviously control the legislature. So that's pretty notable that they're putting hundreds of millions of dollars into something to boost the economy in the Triangle. But it's something that they say this isn't only going to help the Triangle, it's going to help families statewide, whenever their kids have some really severe or rare issue. You don't have to fly to Ohio, you don't have to fly to Pennsylvania. You can stay here and get the work done and not have to completely uproot your lives.
And this is something, I think, a big thing about the timeline for this budget is this is Senator Berger's last, chunk of 6 months of the year of him being the Senate leader in North Carolina, since he lost to Rockingham County Sheriff Sam Page. So I think the Children's Hospital is something he was pushing, again, baseball. So that shows a lot that the Children's Hospital was able to get that funding of it's the additional $105 million with, it was around $400 million that's in this budget for the Children's Hospital. So I think that also plays a factor. That's something he was pushing and wanted, that Children's Hospital funding.
Yeah, healthcare is a huge part of this budget. I mean, it's one of the biggest economies in the state. Everybody needs it. It's also, I mean, the healthcare costs, we don't have to tell you this, they've been ballooning in recent years, way beyond the regular rate of inflation. And this budget tries to do some things to attack that issue. It orders studies into, like, okay, let's get some academics in a room, figure out how can we maybe drive down the cost of healthcare. It looks specifically at Medicaid and some autism programs. You and I have reported on this a lot recently. This has been a big focus of the legislature. They believe that there's a lot of fraud happening in some of these autism therapies, and the budget has some language trying to crack down on that. So they're saying, you know, like, look, we're not just, you know, spending extra money, you know, $34 billion, like you said, that's the biggest spending plan in state history.
Definitely.
Even comes as they're also cutting taxes, you know, but they're also trying to find places in the state where they can save some money, whether that's, you know, the slashing those jobs, finding fraud, things like that. So have we covered it all?
I think we did. I mean, I think one thing that's important to add too is that the auditor, we've seen so many pieces of proposed legislation that they're trying to push through the legislature of implementing different audits and having the auditor have a bigger role in making his audits that he's supposed to do, whether it's election audits, making it required under law. I mean, this would give him a significant amount of money to pursue an audit for Medicaid fraud. So I think that's just another example.
Yeah, a lot in here to keep just processing, figuring out. If you've got any tips, send them to us. You can find all of our contact information online on WRAL.com. We're happy to take them because, you know, sometimes things are obvious, but sometimes things are hidden. And, you know, you might skim over the language and it looks kind of vague and you're like, oh, you know, that seems, you know, like it's really technical or jargony, but it's actually a big deal. And, you know, we always appreciate people's help in understanding some of these jargony things.
And thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and for making us part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. That's a daily email with triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. You can sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.